Rivoli tilikili mbramba, vanu vaherele kajava, voni milale mkwe. Aibzela nizangwiza kia, vanu vaherele kajava, arila machangane mbe.
The pure celebration of cultural resistance. Professor, good morning and welcome to Power Talk.
Good morning, Aldrin. What a pleasure to be on your program. Thank you, and good morning to your listeners.
Siyabonga kakhulu. So this song, Rivolwa, what is the significance of it?
Well, there is a sense in which this song is quite fitting at the moment through which we are going as a country, under lockdown, COVID-19. It's a disaster. It's a national disaster. So that song is about a disaster, actually, which affected perhaps a much smaller portion of the country. When there were rains and storms that fell for so long that the local hill, Rivolwa, which has got big rocks, the rocks fell down and there was an avalanche which affected many, many people. Some people died and many houses were destroyed in the process. And it's a song about that tragedy.
Nina Simone, who speaks about what is an artist if the artist cannot reflect the times that we are living in and the times that they are living in. And here you have that also coming through his music.
Oh, yeah, certainly. I mean, this was one of the most powerful dimensions of his music, that it was, if you like, a commentary on ongoing political and cultural as well as national events. There are very few important events that happened in that area where he lived and in the country that were not captured in one way or the other in the music of Samson Mthombeni. He was that kind of singer who kept his ear on the ground and looked very carefully what was going on and commented on it, sometimes in jest, but many times with all seriousness.
But Prof, wasn't there a level of resistance to Christianity?
In fact, that area acquired kind of a reputation as their place where people were holding on to their traditions and cultures quite strongly because the original Bungeni chief at the turn of the 20th century was quite strong in insisting that people did not have to leave their culture behind. Anything that suggested to him that people had to stop being who they are, he rejected. And in that way, he taught his people to reject and to resist the advances of missionary Christianity, but also the advances of the Boer Republic, which at that time was encroaching and looking for nice pieces of land all over that part of the world.
And what informed that level of resistance? Preserving culture? Was there a sense that we could lose our identity at all besides the assets that could be lost?
I think there was a fear of loss of culture, certainly. But I think people in that area, led by the chief, saw that something was just not adding up. It didn't square up. They realized that it was not necessary that once you become a Christian, you must stop dressing the way you are used to dressing. Just because you have become a Christian does not mean you must stop speaking your language and you must stop going to the traditional dances. So I think it was an intellectual fight back because it was illogical in their eyes. They couldn't see the logic that just because you have accepted this religion, then you must forget everything about who you are.
Prof, you touched on the issue of clothing and missionaries and expectation that you're now supposed to change the way that you dress. And having that resistance from Chief Bungeni, for instance, would that have informed also why Tatani Mthombeni dressed the way he did and felt comfortable in it?
Yeah, it probably did. I mean, it comes from a long way back, a long history of struggle. against imposition not only of dress code, but imposition of thought processes, imposition of spiritualities, of cultures that were foreign. It's quite interesting. If you look at his pictures, the late Samson Mthombeni, so he will put on a suit. And when he puts on a suit and a tie, he's telling you, I can do this. I can be this.
Yes.
But having become this does not define me totally. And so what does he do? He puts on a tika and a duke on top of the suit to tell you that just because I'm wearing a suit does not make me a different person. This is who I am. And so there is an integration there. There is a lot of wisdom in the way he dressed, because he integrates, if you like, the Western style of dress, but he refuses to let it have the last word on who he is. It's resistance, it's innovation, it is deflection. He's wearing a suit, but you will forget about it once he steps in because of what he has put on it.
Why do you use the word deflection?
Well, I use the word deflection because he wants you to focus on who he really is and not on the suit and tie. Because the colorful robe he has on top of the tie deflects your attention away from the suit.
And why would it be that he chose, for instance, in Czech as well as a duke instead of what the males would normally wear?
Well, that's another topic for discussion, Aldrin, because my sense is that the tika was not always exclusively for women. Of course, there were types of tika for women and types maybe for men, but it was not always exclusively a woman's attire. Also, the dresses that people put on for ceremonies. I mean, it's like if you are a ballet dancer, you're not going to go there wearing tekis. There are clothes that were put for specific ceremonies. I want to believe that much of the rigid separation between male and female forms of dress became more rigid with the arrival of modernity and white influences, Western cultural influences. Because let's face it, African dress forms did not intend to cover the whole body because such is our weather in Africa. And so the differences were more slight than they have become owing to the takeover of Western forms of dress.
Prof, Mintirho vulavula. Would this song have been written during a time when he started working himself? Well,
actually, that was the slogan that was introduced by the late Professor Ntsamwisi for the whole area. You'll remember that in the homeland system, every homeland had a kind of a motto, a vision statement. So actions speak louder than words was the chosen one for that area. So what Mthombeni is doing here is merely to reflect that back, as it were. He is not the originator of the saying, but he is acknowledging it and he is commenting on it, and he is saying, let's push on, let our actions speak louder than words. You will remember that the homelands were meant to be places of death. We were supposed to go there and die slowly, and die in our numbers. Whether you're talking about Transkei, Venda, Gazankulu, Libua, these were supposed to be places of death. But artists like Mthombeni and many others turned that around and made these places of life. When in 1988, Harry Belafonte, the great Harry Belafonte, tried to go to Gazankulu, as it was known then, and he was stopped by the authorities. So what he did was to send his representatives to go there and visit all the artists and do recordings with them and send the recordings back to him. The result was an album, his very last album, 1988, Paradise in Gazankulu. Is the name of the album, Paradise in Gazankulu. Because what he discovered is that, hey, these people were supposed to die here, but they are not dying. They are vibrant. they've got music, they've got culture, they are colorful. And that is part of the contribution of the lives of Samson Mthombeni.
How do we then integrate that or intersect into a more, what some would say, probably a more formal economy at the time in the mining sector, and Mthombeni himself becoming a miner at some point?
Now here's the thing. So you had all these people locked away in their homelands as the design of grand apartheid, trying to live, to breathe, to invoke their cultures in order to sustain themselves. But that was not enough, because the homelands were chosen particularly because those areas chosen tended to be arid with very little agriculture possible in them. There were no industries to speak of. Some of the leaders Mangope tried to establish an industry, and I think Professor Ntangwitsi also tried, but actually it was very hard. So what happened is that people ended up in the mines and in Johannesburg, working at Market Street, at GP Street, and all over the place, and in Kimberley. And Mthombeni did not escape that. He ended up living in Dube Hostel at one stage, living in Meadowlands at another stage. He even became a taxi driver, I hear, and he worked for the railways for a long, long time. Throughout all this time, he never stopped his music.
Does he say why?
I haven't spoken to him about that in particular, but it is clear that the hold of the culture in him was so strong. If you read David Copland's book, In the Township Tonight, a brilliant book which explains how the music of Lesotho, the music of the homeland, sustained the people as they tried to make life in the new environment in the urban area. So clearly, for sustenance, for his own mental sustenance, his own, he needed the music. And so he continued to sing, even though he was, if you like, in a foreign land, in inverted commas, when he was in the urban area.
Yeah, I'm going to quickly go to Mr. Shilowa's on the line as well.
Yes, Aldrin, how are you?
Mfukile minjani bhuti?
Efukile, just a quick one that, this dress, normally we look at it as something which is not only a rebellion, but for me, it's going back to the past, because as he said, before, all people would have had is a little cloth to cover just the important area. The rest, you just put a skin on top, whether leopard or anything. But in that area where he comes from, Kashpachi, and that form of our area, Prof would know, we tended to be very good with Mchongolo, Shinchai, Nasgubu. And most of that area, therefore, then Jeka was important not just for dressing, but as part of one of his songs would say, Bombo. So even when we go to pay for Lobola as young guys, we would go there wearing what Prof would know as Yada. I don't know if he's able to explain it. But, so Jeka has always been part of the tradition worn by men, not just by women. But as he said, over time, people say, hi,
just going to get quick closing remarks. Prof, let's start off with you.
The bigger issue is Africanity. You know, Mthombeni is an African. You are an African. I'm an African. So is Fela Kuti and others that have been referred to. At the end of the day, what we are looking for is a way to embrace our Africanity and to do so without falling behind. In terms of the developments. And that's Mthombeni for you. So you want me to wear a suit, I will wear a suit. But don't mistake me for anything else just because I'm wearing a suit. I'd like to honor Samson Mthombeni by saying a few words in Xitsonga. Niku etlela ekurula wena Samsoni wamathaveni, wamashamba, wambekeni, wampuvani, wankoshola, wamaselasela, wena wamagwenge chaka chaka, mtungwa magagule, mupeluka wate havita masingi, xikhova xa mapandra nhloko, lavo pfulela marhole ku sala tintswele etshangeni. Hi letiya, ti lo tshida, tshungu.
anokubombo